Professor Eddy Francisco Alvarez Jr. He's going to present his conference called Joteria Reflections from the Valley, Reading and Teaching Anzaldúa. Dr. Alvarez Jr. is a first-generation college student and a former elementary school teacher. An interdisciplinary scholar, he obtained an BA and Master in Spanish from California State University, Northridge, and a Master and Ph.D. in Chicana and Chicano Studies from University of California, Santa Barbara. His research interests include Chicanx and Latinx aesthetics, performance and popular culture, gender and sexuality, queer oral stories, Los Angeles Queer Latinx Stories, Queer of Color Theories, Jotería Studies, Joteria Pedagogies, Queer Space, Feminist Geographies, Sound Studies, and Critical Fat Studies. His academic and creative work has been published in Aztlan, a Journal of Chicano Studies, Revista Bilingüe, Bilingual Review, TSK Transgender Studies Quarterly, Journal of Lesbian Studies, and Sounding Out, the Sound of Studies blog. Currently, he is working on a book manuscript titled Finding Sequins in the Rubble: Memory, Space and Aesthetics in Queer Latinx Los Angeles, an oral story and archival project with maps, physical and ephemeral sites of memory and quotidian moments of pleasure and resistance for queer and trans Chicanx and Latinx communities in Los Angeles. He is also working on a book of essays and poems about growing up queer in a Cuban and Mexican family in the San Fernando Valley. Prior to joining CSU Fullerton, he held a joint appointment in the Departments of Women, Gender and Sexuality Studies and University Studies at Portland State University. Before his time in Portland, he taught in the Department of Africana and Latino Studies at State University of New York, Onionton. Uh, and now we are very, very happy that you are here. And I can say, Eddie, a friend who helped me a lot when I was in the States, and now I have the pleasure of having you here. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Carlos. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, great. Wow, it's such an honor to be here. I'm so blessed. Um, I'm joining you all this morning. Buenos dias. Good morning. I'm joining you from Tongva Juaneño Kish uh, land, occupied land, and I am always grateful to be able to do the work as Dr. Cantu says, do work that matters on whatever land that I'm on, and know that I am a visitor. Um, the settler colonial name of where I'm at is Fullerton in Orange County. Um, Again, thank you so much for the invitation. Obrigado. It's such an honor. As Carlos mentioned, we are friends. We met at El Mundo Zurdo. I can't remember how many years now ago, but it was one of those moments of connections and kernel of the beginning of a friendship and a collegial relationship. And I'm grateful to you, Carlos, also. And thank you to all the organizers who put this together. I've organized several conferences in my life, and I know that it is not easy. So thank you to everyone for making this happen today, for in the last few days. Um, I'm going to share my screen. my presentation, I probably will not take most of the time, the time that was allocated, so we can have some time for Q&A for everyone. But we'll see. I always end up talking too much. um, let's see. Um, can you see my screen? Oh.
Not yet. Marlon, você consegue já ver a tela dele, Marlon? No? Okay, Eddie, you have to click share,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go share your screen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a blue button, and then share screen again. And you have full screen, window, and Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then you can choose your...
Oh,
And
there it is. Okay. Yes. This is different than Zoom.
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Um, all right. Let's see.
And then you have to click your presentation and then share again.
Share.
Yes, now we can see it. Yes, perfect.
You can see it?
Yeah, yeah. If you want to put it in the presentation mode,
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
perfect. Thank you very
You
much,
can
my
see
friend.
that? All right. So I titled my presentation today, which is more of a testimonio, autohistoria, teoría, um, which Anzaldúa has taught us much about. I titled it Jotería Reflections from the Valley, Reading and Teaching Anzaldúa. The valley is a reference, of course, to the Rio Grande Valley, where Anzaldúa is from, as Dr. Cantu, taught us earlier. But it is also where I'm from, the valley in Los Angeles, the San Fernando Valley, which is different than the valley in Texas, but also has many similarities um, in the way that folks are living their everyday experiences as racialized people, as queer people. This is something that I'm working on, that I will be incorporating a little bit into my book, my future book that Carlos mentioned, and also in an essay, individual essay. I won't talk too much about it today, but I did want to mention that connection. I'm a valley boy, a valley boy, but in a different way that Anzaldúa was a valley girl. So let's see my next slide here. I want to start off with a couple. I want to read a couple quotes from Anzaldúa. This is the first one. This is from Light in the Dark, Luz en lo Oscuro, Rewriting Identity, Spirituality, Reality, edited by Ana Louise Keating. So I have the quote here on my screen, but I also I'm gonna read a few other parts from this page. The creative process is an agency of transformation. Using the creative process to heal or restructure the images, stories that shape a person's consciousness is a more effective way of healing. When you allow the images to speak to you through the first person rather than restricting these images to the third person, things of which you speak, a dialogue rather than a monologue occurs. Dreams too are a form of experience, a dimension in which life and mind seem to be embedded. Dream reality is a parallel continuum. And I also want to share, and many of you are probably familiar with these writings of Anzaldúa's. She says, I use the word ensueño in several guises, as illusion and fantasy, as un sueño que se hace realidad, a dream that becomes a reality, as a way to bridge the reality of the dream with the reality of the non dream, and as a type of lucid dreaming where one is in full awareness or perhaps even control of the dreaming process. In the vernacular, it is a compliment to say, eres un ensueño, that is una persona mágica. Es un ensueño may be also said of viajes or lugares maravillosos, a type of creative fantasy. Ensueños are simply another reality. The reasoning mind's reality is not higher than the imagination's. I am interested in the place, space, Nepantla, where realities interact and imaginative shifts happen. Some images stimulate changes, certain images change the images that live within a person's psyche, altering the stories that live within rather than trying to fix the person that houses these images. And the last part that I'll read says, literal encounters, traumatic happenings, arrebatamientos, such as illness, loss, depression, dislocation, accidents, and the like, can function as initiatory ordeals. They trigger imaginal musings of the sort put forth by post Jungian archetypal or imaginal psychology. So I want to leave you with those quotes by Anzaldúa as I share something that I've written for today that is a work in progress. I take deep breaths after every paragraph I write. After every new image I have put on the page. After every dream I manage to piece together. A deep breath. To connect with my body. A reminder that I am here and my words and stories and dreams matter. Anoche soñé que volviste, papi, que volviste y me decías que ya no sufres por las voces en tu cabeza que te volvían loco, desenfrenado. The voices that told you Fidel Castro was trying to poison us. Don't drink from the drinking fountains at school, my dad would say in his loud Cuban Spanish. I'd tell my friends and they would laugh, asking me to tell the story over and over at parties. It was funny, but it was also painful, and I hid the pain between telling stories of my father's madness. The laughter was mostly theirs, though. Inside of me, there was pain and confusion and a piercing desire to scream. I didn't scream, but I found ways to numb myself, to not feel pain. It was that, or get inside my father's head, hear what I imagined were the diabolic voices also laughing all at once, telling him these stories that seemed silly to us, but to him were real and dangerous. He was always mad at God. He stood in front of the Sagrado Corazón and yelled at him, ¿Por qué carajo tú me haces esto? Or something like that. Mejor quítame la vida. Malas palabras, le gritaba, groserías. He claimed his spirit had been locked in concrete in the next door neighbor's driveway, and he prayed to God he cursed minutes before that his soul would be liberated. In this dream, my father came to me. He has been coming lately. We are playing ball. He is asking me how I am doing. In this dream, I am not the confused child trying to understand why my dad is sick, why has schizophrenia. And years later, when he is dying of cancer, why is this happening to him? And to me, why I have to be the one to take care of him. In this dream, he is healed. There is no answer though, except that the path that unfolded for me, that was the path that unfolded for me. These were the arrebatos, the arrebatamientos, to quote Anzaldúa, that I had to go through to find light in the darkness, sequence in the rubble. And the next one I want to read has a photo component to it, so I'm going to share that. This is a photo of my father and I um, when I was a child, and then my one of my sisters is there. This poem is titled "A Boy and His Dad Wearing Helmets," and I was able to write this after doing a workshop with a Cuban American writer, Richard Blanco. In this photo, Papi sits on Abuelita's living room carpet, his back leaning against that big chocolate colored faux leather couch, where sometimes miniature me would sit, my butt sinking in, bare legs sweaty, sticky like glue, where I would fall asleep on Abuelita's lap while she caressed my face, her aging hands cold, white like Pond's cream. Not pictured here is Abuelito at the other end of the couch, hypnotized by baseball on a television set, the volume up high. Our voices were drowned out by Los Doyers. The announcer Jaime Jarrin's voice piped across the living room into the kitchen and onto the balcony. Jaime Jarrin had been the Spanish language announcer for the Dodgers since 1959, 2 years before my father landed in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, 1 year before his parents left Cuba and made Miami their new home. Corduroy pants, red and white striped polo. I stand next to Papi. One of my hands rests on his khaki covered kneecap, the other on his arm. Blue polyester satin designs under my 5-year old little hand. I turn to look at my sister. She is sunshine and giggles. Mommy, hands waving, has been trying to capture her attention for this photo. Papi and I were just innocent bystanders. Papi and I are wearing helmets. Were we playing? Bonding? If we were, memories like these have receded, washed away, like writing on sand disappears after waves billow and return to their origin. My helmet, kid size and white, a red thick stripe on top covers my face. One size too big, it keeps falling forward, covering my sparkly eyes. Papi's helmet is really cool. An orange see through shield protects his face. I imagine he is an astronaut. He is a superhero from the future who will protect me. I pretend. I pretend he does not hear any scary voices that live in his head screaming at him. How am I doing on sound? Everybody can hear me okay? Yeah. As I share this writing with you today, as I share this writing with you today, my knees shake in fear of doing justice to Anzaldúa. But if there's one lesson I've learned is that being vulnerable can lead us into a path of conocimiento. In this reflection testimonio autohistoria, I want to share what I've learned from reading and teaching Anzaldúa and how her lens has helped me as a writer. When I gave myself the task of reflecting on the impact of Anzaldúa's writing in my life as a writer and educator for this presentation, slowly I realized how difficult that task was. How do I sum up a feeling, a process, words, ideas so enmeshed in who I am, my pedagogy, my activism, my writing? Anzaldúa's writing first and foremost offered me liberation from thinking I had to be this way or that way, write one way, think one way, and that I had to continue to adhere to colonized creencias, believing the myths that had to be written about me, about women, about Joteria. Anzaldúa's letter to third world women writers was not written for me specifically, but her words have always resonated. That need to tell our stories, to write in the bathroom, to write wherever you can, to exercise those stories, to be vulnerable through this bridge and Borderlands and so many other texts. Many of us have studied, taught, or kept by our bedside for inspiration. Those texts have reminded me of our cultura's debilitating expectations, but also of the rich source of myth, history, magic, sueños, healing abilities, medicina that we possess. Anzaldúa's words like text and dream, like potions and remedio, enchanted me. From the day I lay eyes on photocopied pages of Borderlands La Frontera's first edition, copies given to me by my maestra Sirena Payarolo at Cal State Northridge when I was finishing my BA in Spanish, or maybe starting my MA, I can't remember anymore. The pages of Borderlands, all jumbled up because they had fallen on the ground when she gave them to me, soon became a desire to read more Anzaldúa, to buy the book, buy her books, read through its pages fervently. Never before had I seen writing like Anzaldúa's, never. Not in any of the Latin American writers I'd studied or the Chicano writers I had studied until then. I never met Anzaldúa. I came to her writing perhaps later than some of my peers, but her writing has guided me through academia, sometimes in wanting to push the boundaries as she did, and as she found resistance. I found resistance too, as I tried to early on in my PhD program, being told I could not write that way. My voice screamed to break through empirical writing, through arguments clamped shut, lifeless, breathless, my voice becoming less audible, weaker, faint. But I resisted, remembering Anzaldúa's words always. In graduate school, I had the honor to study with and be a teaching assistant for Chela Sandoval, whose writing and teaching is guided by Anzaldúa and other Chicanas and women of color. Hearing Dr. Sandoval share stories about Anzaldúa, their friendship, their conversations around writing, was the closest I'd ever been or will be to Anzaldúa, perhaps. Besides through her actual writing, of course. And in Sandoval's class, Decolonizing Feminisms, we studied Borderlands. We did close readings of the 7 stages of conocimiento. In this bridge we call home. We read Haciendo Caras and others. It is with Profesora Sandoval that I learned about SWAPA, spoken word art performance as activism, which my words today are modeled after and which I have taught in my own classes and written about. I am grateful for these lessons and for the ways I will continue to learn with and through Anzaldúa. Presente. And that's it for me. I told you it was short. Um,
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Professor Cantu is saying thank you very much as well. So powerful. Yes, Professor, I would say that as well. We have some people saying in our YouTube channel, uh, saying, let me just check. Marlon, can you help us uh, with the. Marlon, consegue colocar as mensagens, por favor, do YouTube, da professora Leia Colchado. Muchas gracias for sharing your narrative. It was beautiful and so important. Thank you, Professor Colchado. E agora passamos a palavra para o professor João, professora Vânia, para fazer suas considerações. A professora Cantu também está convidada para poder, né, comentar, caso seja necessário. Professor Cantu, thank you very much for being here. A professora Gisele, caso queira falar também, está convidada para participar desse debate. João, professora Vânia. João? Professor Cantu?
You want me to talk? I will.
Please.
I just was blown away, Eddy. it's such a powerful autohistoria. I can't wait to read the book. And I think you're dealing with issues that are important for our time, for our current situation, but also personally, you're touching hearts. And I really am looking forward to reading it. I know that Anzaldúa has done this kind of path breaking, abre brecha, right? For many of us. When we read her work, we realize we could write about our own life.
Mm.
We can express ourselves with our own language because she did. Y creo que eso es algo importante para todas y todos y todes. But also, I think it's a model that I use in my classes. And I'm glad you mentioned Chela because she is a brilliant thinker and also professor. And the opening of that path continues through you. So muchas gracias.
Gracias. You're gonna make me cry.
Ok, João, professora Gisele.
Thank you so much, Professor. It is indeed so deep. So it makes us really emotional. It's really, really interesting how you're writing in deeply personal and literary ways. And then it made me think about the self transformation, how we can be, self transformative. Um, the fact that we can build this community, and try to change our notions, our ideas, our conceptions, which are related to our beliefs. And also, I kept here thinking how about your experiences uh, teaching Gloria Anzaldúa as a philosopher, for example, how your students connect to her writing and then start having these reflections about themselves in this genuine conversation about her practices, the methods, and well, everything that you can create, these tools that you are creating for becoming yourselves. It was really, really interesting. It really reminded me of Leo Corchado's dissertation, the how you include yourself in your writing and how it can be so it can bring um, transformations. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Professora Gisele, por favor.
Thank you very much. I'd like just to say that when Eddy said, I'm blessed, I think that this is really, we are all blessed here because, I mean, it's so wonderful to be here with you and for us to share those ideas related to Anzaldúa's work and how powerful it is. And you are so auto-história teoria, Eddy. Thank you so much, Professor Cantu. Very nice meeting you, and also meeting you, Eddy, and Coco and Javier. And I mean, it's wonderful to be here across countries and then with this borderless future that we really want to see. And I really hope that we will be able to be in touch for us to work together in the near future, right, with our colleagues from Mato Grosso and also here in São Paulo at Unesp. And I would like to say that when I first read Anzaldúa back in 1999, right, when I was in the Summer Institute on Contemporary American Literature at the University of Louisville, we were like, how this would be, received in your country, right? So I mean, because there were 18 professors from different parts of the world. And then when I come and then I put the teachings I'll do it to my students, and then we can have then diversity. So, and talking about the canon and how much we can reorganize and review the canon and bring other voices that were silenced in the past. So I think that's so important when we do this with our students to share this. So I mean, we study, so the writers that we also do in American literature, like Fitzgerald, Hemingway, as we do, but then we bring Anzaldúa, and then we bring Jimmy Santiago Baca, we bring Gary Soto, Pat Mora, so many other voices that they have to know, and the importance of their work in our world. And then we can see this new story, so something new and another way to see the world. So I'm very thankful for being here this morning. Thank you very much again, Professor Vânia Guerra. Many thanks for joining us this morning. And I'd like to thank all the staff members and also Professor Vânia, Professor Carlos, and Professor João, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. And very nice meeting you all, indeed. Thank you.